Awesome today to welcome Tobin Anderson to the podcast. Coach Tobin Anderson is the head coach of the St. Thomas Aquinas Spartans. During his tenure, he has averaged over 23 wins a season, has a 75% winning percentage, and has led his team to 6 consecutive NCAA Division II Tournament appearances. He also has been voted ECC Coach of the Year twice. Coach Anderson has over 16 years of coaching experience at the NCAA Division I, Division II, and Division III levels. Much of his success can be attributed to his pressing system that he has adapted over the years. Tobin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. Great to see you and great to be on.
Well, you know what? We met and we just figured this out that you were 24 and I was 22, and we were both on the camp tour, traveling around the U.S. working camps, and we met at Maryland camp way back when. Isn't that something?
It seems like yesterday. It's unbelievable how time flies. I mean, it was a great time in both our lives, just going around, no responsibilities at all, just going to camp. And I might have had like 2 days off all summer, but it was a great time.
And it's amazing talking to young coaches nowadays that just doesn't seem to be an option anymore. And that's too bad because, I mean, again, not just the learning, but the network that you built and the friendships and all the different things along the way.
I'm sure just like you, I probably got 50 friends who I met through the camp circuit way back when, 20 years ago. And I might see it once a year, once every 2 or 3 years. And we're still good friends and still talk, or text or communicate via, social media, whatever. But it was a lot of fun. And you learn so much. You learn from different coaches and you learn from asking questions and things like that. You don't have as much of that anymore. It's too bad. I do miss that. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I do think the power of the question is really what helped me at that time, is really to learn, is just understanding, okay, I don't need to talk, but you know what I can do is listen and ask good questions. And that was really powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many different viewpoints and thoughts on things. And it's like, to listen to people talk. And even now, like during the season, it's so good for me to hear. You get in a bubble sometimes. You don't talk as much or communicate. Like if I get on the phone with a few people and start just listening and asking questions, I get so many new ideas and new thoughts, and it helps me a ton just to talk. So I got to remind myself sometimes during the season to make sure I make 2 or 3 phone calls a day to buddies or friends or just colleagues to keep me sharp.
Well, and you're keeping us sharp by doing this podcast and your Immersion video project at TobinAndersonBasketball.com, where you shared your pressing system and all access. And what was that experience like?
It was awesome. It was great. Listen, when you believe in something that you do and you like what you do and it's fun, that's kind of part of the fun of pressing. Is we enjoy it. It's fun to practice. It's fun for the games. It's fun to teach. So to do that with you and to do that together was just a ton of fun, and to get me going, get me thinking, get me talking, and hopefully people can learn from that a little bit. And just same thing. I go through it. I'm like, I should have said this, or I should have said that, or I missed that point, or whatever. I'm sure I missed a ton of things, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, intimate and raw access, and again, thanks, but also a film session and a philosophy session, which I think is incredibly unique to be able to provide that access. So thanks for doing that.
No problem. It's great.
So we're going to get into some questions about your pressing system, but also just in general, some of the success and some of the things that you've done. And let's start with this. What's the importance of turnover margin for you, and how do you incorporate it into your practices?
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. I think it's really important. I think the turnover margin, I know years ago we did studies about if you were +5 in turnover margin, most of the teams who were +5, it's like 90% of the teams were 20 plus wins, 25 plus wins, NCAA tournament teams. Even now, I'll go through, and I don't pay as much attention as I used to, because it's kind of like we assume we kind of know where we're at. It's not like we're +6 this year, which is great. So I'll go through the numbers, and most teams are winning 20 games or having a lot of success, because when you get turnover margin, you're getting more shots. And those turnovers in the press lead to layups. They lead to dunks. They lead to layups. They lead to easy shots. And so if you can get more easy shots than your opponent, which we all know, I mean, we try so hard on out of bounds plays and on special plays and sets to get easy baskets. If we can get 5, 6, 7 more shots than our opponents off of turnovers, then that's a major, major thing. And I think that's a huge part of winning. So we talk about with our players all the time. We talk about with our staff. We're always constantly trying to evaluate that. And I'd say we're probably in the middle on analytics. We go both ways. Sometimes it's a feel, but it's also numbers. That's one thing we pay a lot of attention to. And like we had a game the other night where we're -2, and that just we didn't play well. If we're -2, we're not going to play well. And if we're +8, it's going to be good for us. And so there's a huge correlation for us. And I think our guys believe in that. They buy into it. And obviously we stress it all the time, and through practice, through games, the whole thing.
Well, and you guys live it in practice because, again, you're a pressing team. It's not like we're going to watch your practices and not see you press. I mean, you guys press and you emphasize that, as you said, all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, people always say, well, you got to press the pressing teams. They don't value the ball as much because they're used to creating turnovers. So part of us is we want to create turnovers, but also we don't want to turn it over. If we start throwing the ball with the gym because we're playing fast. That's not good for us at all. So we really stress with, the other side of that is to play fundamentally sound offensive basketball, play off 2 feet, pass and catch the ball, all that kind of stuff. And we don't, we chart and practice our turnovers. We have numbers on the wall. I get this. I mean, guys use balloons now and things like that. We just say, 1 through 10, and you get 10 to start the game. And I think my dad always said that. One day I was a high school coach back in the day, and we'll give you 10. We'll tell our team we'll give you 10 turnovers, and that's a pretty good number. And 10 becomes 12 sometimes, and 12 becomes 14. But if we can stay in that number, the 10, 12, 13 area, and we can force 20, it's a good night. It's a good night for us.
And what's happening in practice if they get over 10?
We run. There's a consequence. It depends on what kind of a mood I'm in too. I mean, it could be a down and back. It could be push-ups. It can be, if we're playing the next day, it's push-ups, and yeah. It's just something to remind them. It's not the punishment. It's just to remind them, hey, that's enough. We got to be a little more sound, a little more fundamental. And when you press, and I think you can be a little like, we're not as you don't have to be as precise sometimes. Like, so we're not trying to be exact. We're not trying to be like, I'm not holding their hands. We're not dictating them all the time what they have to do. So it's like, we're going to screw up. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to live with mistakes, but there's a certain amount where you get, hey, listen, that's enough. It's time for us to have some sort of consequence. And so, we try to do something every, once we get to 10. So if the Maroon's playing white and we get to 10 and Maroon turns it over, Maroon has a punishment, a down and back, 5 push-ups, whatever it may be. If white turns over, white's got a punishment, down and back, the same thing. And so it's worked out pretty well for us. We try to mess around with it sometimes, and like most things you mess around with, and it's not as good as the original. So we just tend to go back to that all the time, and it works out well. Well,
of course, the game consequences, you lose. So running in a few push-ups in practice is a good emphasis to counter that. We have a chart too, Chris.
We have a chart on our wall. It's just turnover margin. Do we get it? Do we not get it? The goal is +5. The goal is +5. So they can see on the wall, it's plain as day, walk in the locker room. When we're +5, it's almost always a win. And then when it's +8 or +9, it's a big win. So they know what leads to winning. We stress it all the time.
Another philosophy that has shone through the practices and in talking to you, and that's the philosophy of winning runs during the course of the game. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, I think when you play teams that you're already better than, you're gonna no matter what you do, for the most part, you're gonna win the game. You're gonna play well if you don't screw up and don't do dumb things. So it's the games against the good teams when you want to have those 6-0 runs, 8-0 runs. I mean, a 15-0 run is probably that's an outlier. That's not something we're trying to get. So we tell the guys all the time, we want to get a bucket, a turnover, a bucket, a turnover, make them call timeout. That's a big run right there. So if you get 1 or 2 runs per half, 6-0 runs, that gets you to +12, and then gets you one more in the second half, that gets you to +18. That's the game right there. What we don't want to do with the press is we're not taking crazy chances. We're not trying to give up layups, no open threes and 3-point shooters. We're trying not to foul. So, it's the run's got to be in our favor. We can't have 3 in our favor and then 3 against us. So but those runs are very, very important. And it's such a momentum thing too. If you can get that going, it helps your team. It helps the bench. It helps the crowd obviously gets into it. So we're looking for runs, but we don't want to give up runs too. It's the same thing. And there's been some times, obviously, you give up a couple layups in the press. You can't blink. But you also got to say, hey, this can't happen on a consistent basis for us to be successful. But I think the important thing is when we play good teams, and we played a lot of good teams in the tournament, stuff like that, we're not going to get them on a 20-0 run. It's got to be, hey, just be sound, and then hopefully get that run that can take the game from a tie game. And especially the run comes at the right time. There's 6 minutes to go in a game, and you can get a 6-0 run. You're pretty much put it away right there. So, those are very important to us.
Well, and also, I want to talk about something, because we talked about some of your pressing videos. And when we were talking about this product, we talked about that you were going to do an update to the Rick Pitino system. And I just want you to talk a little bit about the influence of Rick Pitino and other coaches as you have adopted and adapted some of their ideas to build your pressing system.
Yeah, and it's a Pitino press at the heart. It's a Pitino press. It's like anything else. It's like, it's a passing game from Henry Iba that the Bob Knight took or whatever. So we've just taken Pitino's press, and what happened was he just got the job at Kentucky, and my dad was a high school coach in Iowa, and a really successful coach in Iowa, and did a great job, and always played half court man-to-man defense and ran motion offense, which was very successful. Well, he had in high school, you're going to have some ups and downs with your talent level. And he had some bad years. There's some not great players for a couple of years. And so he's like, well, I got to figure out a way to win games. So I went to Kentucky, watched him press, and Pitino just came from, was it Providence? No, Providence to Knicks to Kentucky. And so he was putting in the system, and he's like, this could be good for us. We don't have any great players, but we do have 9 or 10 guys who are fairly tough kids who play hard, fairly even talent, no great players. And so he came back, put the pressing system in, and they were 17-4, their usual record, with a pretty, low talent level team. And so for the rest of his career, he pressed the rest of the time. And so I was in college then. I came back to watch him play. I said, well, what the hell is this? I hadn't seen this at all. But then that was the time when he started getting the Jamal Mashburns and the Tony Delks and the Walter. Remember Walter McCarty being on the ball as a 4-man press, and I'm like, man, that it would be hard to play against. And so that's the foundation. It's a great way of for your program to throw the first punch, to go after people, to be aggressive, to be assertive. Guys like playing that style. And that's hard. I mean, they like playing that style in games. They don't like playing that style necessarily every day in practice, and they don't like to do the conditioning stuff. I mean, the stuff they did back at Kentucky to get in shape was pretty crazy. So, we just have taken that press, and we've done it now I've been a head coach now for 21 years. We've probably pressed, I'd say 19 out of those 21 years, almost the whole year. It's been, some years was kind of, we'd press half the year, and then we might have an injury or something, or not as deep as we thought. We might pull it back a little bit, but for the most part, we're pressing all the time. And we've obviously tweaked it. We've added our own spin to it. We've done certain things that are a little bit different. But it's a black-white. I mean, white's still 4-man on the ball. Black's the 4-man's off the ball. There's no changes there. And now I don't think I see a lot of people playing that way with that pressing style. So I think it's still very, very effective. And but that's the foundation. That's the thing. And I still go back and watch old tapes of them, or we'll show our team old tapes of Kentucky playing to kind of get a feel for how hard they played and how aggressive they were. I mean, there was one game they're playing LSU, and they're down 30 points, and it was like they didn't even blink. They just kept coming, and they were very aggressive. We're probably most years not as aggressive as they are. They were trapping everything, but they had some dudes. I mean, they had 9 NBA players, but it's a fun way to play. It's a fun way, and that's our foundation, and that's where it comes from. And I think he was obviously ahead of his time in a lot of things, but that was the biggest thing, was that press has really had a big influence on me and how we play, how our programs run it. Like pressing's, it's a way of playing, but it's also kind of how you run your whole program. Your program kind of is like dictated by the fact that we have to be in great shape. Like conditioning is huge for us. Like we're still pretty old school in how we get ourselves into shape. We're still running on the tractor in the fall. We're still doing a lot of sprints in the gym. We're doing the pressing helps us get into shape, but there's extra stuff involved there too, to make sure, our guys call it stack shape. Like I'll ask them, I say, how you doing? How's the summer going? How's the off season? Yeah, I'm good. You in shape? Yeah, I'm in good shape. I'm not in stack shape. So that wasn't a word I invented. They kind of came up with that themselves. They just called that's their own thing. So it's an extra level of conditioning you have to have. And just, people come to the games and they know how we're going to play, and they're excited about it. And recruits like it. And we're scoring points, obviously. So it's just it's kind of a way of living, and I'm giving them control. Like I'm letting them play. I'm not and that's kind of, we run motion offense and we press, so I'm not a guy who's calling a lot of set plays. I'm not a guy who's, in the press, we're not telling them when to trap. We're not telling them where to trap. We're letting them just make those decisions themselves and trust them. Obviously there's a lot of coaching and teaching involved, but it's their press. It's not my press. They have to decide when and what to do with it. So it's effective. Yes.
Well, I want to come back to offense and connect that for everyone as well. But, the one thing that shines through, and you mentioned the teaching part of it, you teach a lot, and it's a fallacy that you think you press and you're not teaching. And that's evident in all the videos that you've shared with us. So I want you to talk to us about defensive decision-making in this style of play, because that is obviously the most important piece.
Yeah, and that's obviously, that's something we have to spend a lot of time on. And I was, we have coaches come through practice all the time. They're like, well, how, I won't do, and obviously in the tapes, I do have to do more teaching and practice to do it, to show it, to teach it. I try to, once we get the season going, I try to let them play during the practice, and then we do a lot of stuff on film, a lot of video stuff, a lot of hey, this is a good time to go, it's not a good time to go. We watch a lot of film individually with the players so they can kind of get a good feel for it. But yeah, they have to be able to make, and games played fast. I mean, in a pressing system, you're playing, it's quick decisions. So you've got to be able to decide and be instinctive. We want our guys to be, we don't want them thinking slows their feet down. We want them to be instinctive and have a good feel for, when to go, when not to go. Hubie Brown always said the hardest thing for an offensive player is when to shoot, when to pass. I think for us to go is when to trap, when not to trap. There's times that we want short traps. We don't, long traps get you a lot, because long traps become long rotations. So they got to know that they're close enough to go. They got to know who they're trapping. They got to know who they're trapping off of. They got to know kind of what's happening in the game, how the game is being played. All that kind of stuff goes into it, and who they are. I mean, I'm a guy. I mean, I couldn't have played this system. I couldn't guard anybody. So it's like, but certain guys can be more. We had a kid years ago who was a 4-man in front of the press, and he would trap all the time. And I would say, Dan, we're trying to get him to, I mean, he probably shouldn't trap there, probably shouldn't trap there. At the end of the day, he wanted to go traps. We're like, all right, to heck with it. We're just, you go trap when you want to go trap. And I said, fellas, behind him, Dan's going to trap. Like we have to understand Dan is going to go trap. Whatever I say to him or not, we have to adjust and be ready to rotate when he goes. So you got to know your teammates and things. There's a lot of things that go into it and to making the right decisions and being smart. And then, at the end of the day, you go and you're aggressive. As long as we can sprint back and recover and get out of those traps and get out of those rotations and get back to 5-on-5 and play half court basketball. Once we've forced the tempo, we're going to be fine. So like there's times we'll make a mistake with the press, but because of our effort level, because of our back tip, our back pressure, the guys in the back not coming up too soon, we can get back to 5-on-5 and play half court basketball. And then if we can do that, we'll be in pretty good shape.
Well, I used to talk about on defense, the first person that talks is right, even if in theory they're wrong. Same thing applies in the press for you, right? If someone goes, they're right and everyone else has to figure it out.
Yeah, that's the decision. You can't go back and rehash that. He goes, we're all going. And what you just said, we said it all the time. The first guy who talks is the guy that sets everything else in motion. It's a domino effect. Once that happens, then everybody else can so once we go trap, like we're moving. Like when one guy goes, we all go. I hear that all the time. And for pressing teams or from half court defensive teams, when he goes, man, we're all going. And you're on a string, and when the string moves, you've got to be moving. You can't wait till the ball moves. You can't wait till they make a play. It's got to be instinctive. And so we actually get string out to start a lot of times to start the year and have them you're on a string. When there's a trap being made, there has to be rotations. There has to be guys moving, and that's so important.
So obviously forced turnovers, fatigue opponents, but another big important why behind the press is to confuse your opponent. And that's one of the beautiful things about your system is there's a lot of matchup oriented concepts where a team really can't tell if it's a zone press, a man press, whatever it is. And that's a big part of this, isn't it?
That's huge. I think that gets the beauty of the press. It's like if you play a 2-2-1 or you play a 1-2-1-1 or you do that kind of, which I think are all effective for, Jim Calhoun at UConn was tremendous with his 2-2-1 for years. So, I mean, you can do it, but ours is a little more where it can adapt to the situation, adapt to who you're playing. So you don't know they don't know when we're going to trap because we don't know when we're going to trap. It should be unpredictable. It shouldn't look the same twice in a row. Unless we're on a run where we're trapping everything, it should be unpredictable every time. And so sometimes we'll trap the first pass. Sometimes we won't trap at all. I mean, I love traps around half court. Traps around half court are fantastic. If you can get a guy turned in the backcourt 2 or 3 times and then get something around half court, because then you have shorter rotations, shorter traps. We love stuff around there. And it's funny, like the guys will figure things out. So like, we'll have guys come to the bench during timeouts. They'll say, hey, stop trapping. Like stop trapping so much. Let me work this guy a few times and let's get something around half court. And they're a little bit better about that. And like, they actually get mad at each other about trapping too much, which is funny. They don't want us, they prefer to get a guy turned 2 or 3 times. And like a good stunt, a good fake trap is just as good as a trap. I come up 2 steps and then is he coming? Is he not coming? And then teams have gotten better against it. Obviously in our league and our region, they've seen it more often now, but it used to be like, well, they'd see it at first. And was it a zone press? Well, let's go to 2-1-2, get a guy in the middle. Well, no, is it man press? Let's clear out. Well, if they clear out, we bring guys back and then it looks like a zone press again. So we try, it's a little bit of cat and mouse. And, I like to not dictate to them how to go about it, but sometimes early on we have to kind of say, hey, if they're going to clear us out, we're going to go back and, we're going to go back and trap him like right away. As soon as he goes over half court, we're going back to trap. We'll bring more guys up that way. It just depends on what we're trying to do. But it is very unpredictable and it's very, it's unique in that way. And if we get good at it, it becomes different every time down. And to me, it's like, I'm sorry, because I'd say that like, if we don't trap and just turn the guy and make them use 10 or 12 seconds of the clock before they're into their offense, especially against a set play team, that can really cause problems. And then we can defend for 20 seconds as opposed to defending for 30 or 35.
Well, I imagine another fun part for you is obviously getting them to the point where you can tweak it according to scout and start to mix in different things, whether you're denying the point guard, allowing the point guard catch, quick trap, no trap. I mean, depending on personnel, it can really, really be fun for you, can it?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and that's part of the fun. Like who takes the ball out of bounds? That's one of the biggest things. Is the inbounder? It used to be always a big guy, always a 4-man. Well, if the inbounder is a non-handler, we're going to trap all the time. And guys got to know that we're going to go trap the first pass, we're going to trap the first turn, make it throw back to the guard. If they bring, if they go 1-4, a lot of teams will go 1-4, and then great. To me, the more guys in the backcourt, the better for us. The more guys they bring back, the more guys that are in this. We always tell the guys, the more guys in the screen and in the actual video we can see, the better off we're going to be. So there's a lot of ways of, a great point guard is going to cause you problems no matter what it is. But a great point guard, we're going to trap, get the ball out of his hands, and then try to deny him the ball back if we get a chance to. We'll double team sometimes on the inbounds pass, what we call a rondo. We'll go double team the point guard and make it tough to get the ball inbounds to him. So there's a lot of ways we can go about it. I've always tried to think of new things that it's constantly evolving. I like to at some point we can just go to a zone press and just stay in the zone, but we haven't gotten great at that. Just go to do a 2-on-2 or something like that. But there's ways you can tweak it constantly to make it better. And I'm always getting lots of ideas, which is great. The players have ideas too, and they have thoughts on things. And they love to deny the ball. Like for example, we'll play a team in our conference. They'll throw the ball into their big man as a pressure release, and then we call it gray, and we just deny everybody else, and that could be very effective as well. So yeah, there's ways of going after people in a certain way, it's a fun way of coaching. It's a fun way of preparing, and you got to kind of as you scout and here's the thing: sometimes you're not sure what they're going to do till the game actually starts because a lot of teams don't press, and so when they first see, it's like the first 5 minutes or first 4 minutes, it's like what are they going to do? Are they going to clear us out? Are they going to bring guys back? Are they going to, flash guards in the middle? Whatever then we kind of have to make an adjustment at the first media timeout. Okay, that's what they're doing. But by the time you get into, the second half of your season, you kind of seen everything by then, and guys can pick up things a little bit quicker.
Well, and it speaks to the in-game adjustment ability of you that you've had so much success with it, because it really is placed an importance on your ability to be able to adjust to what the other team's doing, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have one assistant coach who's just watching that, because it's like anything else. I'm watching our emotion, I'm watching our offense, I'm watching our other things too. And so it's like, we have one guy who's just watching away. What are they doing? Like what's hurting us here? If they get something they shouldn't have gotten, I want to know what's going on there. But we have pretty smart players too, who can they'll tell me what's happened as well. I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have I came up too far on this one, or I trapped too soon, or was it the long trap? So they figure things out. But yeah, it's good to get in a situation where you are making adjustments as time goes on.
So one of the challenges when you press is obviously that on the ball pressure, because we can't make it too easy for that player to be able to pass and dissect the press, but we also can't pressure too much that we get beat fully without that, again, sending him where you want to go. So can you talk about that aspect of on the ball defense and the importance, and maybe some of the teaching points as well?
Well, I think the first thing is we're not denying the ball in bounds. So we're playing beside the guy. And obviously, we can be a little more aggressive and get half a man up. And if you can steal a couple passes a game where you're shooting the gap, where you're open to the ball, you're not denying, you're open, get a couple of those. If our 4-man on the ball is putting a lot of pressure on, get a deflection, let's get a couple steals a game. But once it's inbounded, we want to be just square. No, we're not going to force either way for the most part. I've tried at times to do that, and that's always screwed things up. So we just stay open to the ball. I like to get our hands up if we can. I mean, it's not an ideal defensive position, but I don't want them to see. And at the end of the day, if they can't pass against our press, if they have to dribble, we're in pretty good shape. And we always tell the guy on the ball, don't get beat on the first bounce. That's ideal. Ideally is make them go 2 bounces to beat you, because at that point they're going to run into somebody. But you got to initiate the ball. You got to make the guy with the ball put it on the floor hard, and they only got 10 seconds. They don't have all day. So it's like, we want to have tremendous pressure, want to be square. And like I always tell the guys, if we can just get one turn, if we can just get one turn where a guy, I don't care who you are, just the guy starts to beat you, and it becomes, we're not sliding. The defense, the slide defensive drills are probably been gone for a long time, but especially in the press, it's a slide and then it's a run. I mean, as soon as you start to feel like you're getting beat, you turn your hips and sprint, and you throw your hands up, because if you put your hands out, it's going to be a foul. So once they start to beat us, we're sprinting and we're trying to figure out a spot to get that guy turned. It depends on who you are and who I'm turning. If I'm going against a really quick, good guard, it might not be as, maybe further down the road, it might be around half court, but let's get one good turn and we'll go. But we don't want them to have vision against our press on the ball. Want to make sure they can't pass against the press. Want to make them go hard to beat us. And the thing is, if we get over to our spots, which you can see on the videos, we're really trying to shrink the court, really trying to get the midline, split the court in half. There's not much room to go. You can't really go middle. So you have to go sideline, and then we're ready on the sideline to get the trap and then get the turn and try to get our rotations going from there. But the guy on the ball, when you got some pit bulls on the ball and guys who really want to defend, who love to guard and love to speed up the ball, that sets a tone for everything. It just makes it so much better. Sometimes you get guys who, it's, my dad used to always call it, the fake pressure. It's like we're there, but you're not really there. That gets in trouble. Most of our problems in the press come from lack of ball pressure. I think that's probably 2.5 court defense too. If you can't get great ball pressure and make them uncomfortable, make them do things they don't want to do, it's going to hurt our press no matter how good our guys off the ball are. It's the guys on the ball. And we always, a phrase we use all the time is the on the ball makes us, off the ball makes us good, but the on the ball makes us tough. And it's those guys that are just tougher than nails on the ball that gets us going. So we are, you're lucky you're in college, you can recruit to that a little bit too. But we got guys who probably couldn't outshoot my wife, who can't make shots by themselves in the gym, but they make us better because they can really guard the ball and they want to guard the ball.
Yeah, it's great stuff and great insights in terms of that detail. And let's maybe shift to off the ball defenders and maybe specifically the deepest line, the backcourt position players. What are some teaching points for them? Are we playing on the line, up the line? Are we a little bit tighter? What are some philosophies?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of, it's almost like we want to dare them to beat us over the top once or twice first. Like let's make them go over the top. Even on the first pass, like we tell guys all the time, they'll never beat us in a game long term by going over the top of us. There's just no future in the home run, the touchdown, that pass. It's not going to beat us over the course of a 40-minute game. I might get us once or twice. So we're going to get really uphill. We call it uphill. We're going to get uphill to start the game as far as we can, like almost just dare them to throw it over the top of us, right? On the ball side, we're on the line, up the line, take the direct pass away. Then on the weak side, we're coming way over to the midline and daring them to throw that diagonal pass, cross-court pass across the floor. And it's the same thing as the guys who are up the front of the press. We want them to be active. We want them to stunt. You're constantly foot faking. Is he coming up? Is he going back? What's he doing? He's ready to rotate. So they've got to be active. They got to be active. They can't lose their man. If you lose your man, that's gonna be a problem. So you're still, because initially you're still man to man. The press is still man to man until we trap. So you have a man, but let's get uphill. Let's be in the screen. Let's be in position to make plays. And it kind of depends on who you are. I mean, everybody's got a 5-man who's not quite as mobile as, I think I heard one of your podcasts recently where you're talking about 5-men who are not great, very mobile. I mean, I've got a couple of those too. And so they're not going to rotate as much. They're going to be more stunting and staying home, where other guys are going to be more aggressive and looking to shoot gaps and be in rotation and look for steals. And if we have a guy who's really not great in rotation, we'll just say, all right, you're going to press, but you're not going to rotate. Now, we don't tell the other team that's the situation. We're going to say, hey, you're going to come up like you're going to rotate, but at the end of the day, you're going back to the hole and protecting. But they've got to be smart back there. They've got to know what they can get. One of the worst things you can do is the false hustle where there's a pass made and you come up there and you don't get it. And now you put yourself in a bad position where it's a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-0 because you really couldn't get it in the first place. And you just wanted to show the fans what a great effort it was by going up there. It's like, that's going to kill us. So it's kind of an all or nothing. Either get it. If you can't get it, it's not the end of the world either. Then you just stunt and stay home and we'll play off that.
Well, I imagine through video and practice, and again, a lot of game-based play and practice, which we'll get into, but players just have to get experience in those situations about whether to be aggressive or contain. And that ultimately is a huge thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And like you said, we're doing so much 5-on-5 and so much is just repetitions. And I'm not going to stop it. They're going to screw up in practice. And for me to stop it in practice and say, well, hey, you screwed up. They know they made a mistake. And so we'll show it on video, but it's like they just, if you get 10 or 15 reps a day on those kind of situations, you're going to get better. You're going to get better at it, and there are times that, it's, if they don't concentrate, they're going to do things that they shouldn't do. They know they shouldn't do it. So it's more of a, hey, let's concentrate. Let's pay attention to what's going on. Let's be engaged in what's happening. Sometimes guys at the back of the press want to take a little bit of a break and let the guys up front do all the work. Well, they're just as important as anybody else. And so we try, and same thing. I try to have a coach watching those, because as a coach, I'm watching the front of the press it's just, you're drawn to the ball, right? Just the way it is. And so I've got a coach at all times watching the back of the press. I can say, anyway, and they're constantly, get uphill, get to the ball, be ready to rotate. When that guy goes to trap, we're going right away. So we're watching the whole thing. And, to have a camera where you can actually see the whole press. We love games like in big arenas where you see the whole floor. So sometimes in small college, you can't see the whole floor. So it's great to be in a place where you can actually see the whole floor and see all 5 guys moving and rotate. And that helps us to teach what's going on. But like you said, at the end of the repetition is the biggest. That's in getting game action and game, through practice, through us doing it all the time. And like we press every day, we might press for 30 minutes to start the year. We might be, now this time of year, we're probably down to, it's February. We're probably down to maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, but we're doing it all the time. So they know they're getting reps in and getting better.
And from watching your practices, I would describe it as this, is that your both parts are, you're sometimes just creating random situations. We're going to go a chase trip, and then from whatever happens from there, we're going to play and coach and learn out of it. And then there's some situations where you actually create the situation you want to work on to start, and then it becomes more free play after you create that situation.
Yep, that's been a big part of our teaching, is to create that, what's hurting us. So we kind of can go through the scenarios, what happens in practice or in game, and we're getting beat on up the sideline and we can't get the guy turned. We actually had that scenario this morning. We were like, wait, guy's too good, he's too quick, he's too fast, he beats up the sideline, we can't get him turned. How are we handling that? Like, we're going to stunt the guys in the back, get everybody over to one side of the floor. The bottom guy should take the ball, and then we should fan out on the next pass. And so we actually put those in these spots. We'll walk it through, and you'll see it on the video. Walk it through. Here's what's happening. Here's what we should do, and then we just go and play out of that. 2 guys, they beat our trap. They got 2 guys chasing. Guy flashes middle. That happens a lot. What happens if the guy flashes middle? We didn't take it away. They got the ball in the middle forward. Now how do we? So I'll actually throw the ball to the middle. All right, here's the breakdown. Here's how we screwed up. Now how do we fix it? We call it the shock of smart fix it. How we fix this to get us back to no layups, no threes, no fouls, and then playing 5-on-5 half court basketball. So that's probably the best thing we do. Like through the course of pressing all the time, you try different things and different drills, but the best way to do it is just to go 5-on-5 and show this is what hurt us. This is the situation that hurt us. And let's recreate it and let's fix it and get better. And so then in a game, hey, fellas, one thing that causes problems is if we have a trap and a rotation, we miss the trap and we got 2 guys back. Well, that becomes then a tandem. So the 2 guys that are back, there's a 3-on-2 or 4-on-2, get into a tandem where the top guy's got the ball, that guy's got the first pass, and everybody else is flying from behind. If we can get into that tandem and make them make one pass, we'll be recovering by the time that ball is thrown to the wing. We're back by then. So it's like, but they got to see, they can't stay in their original spots. They have to get in that tandem and then adjust. And so they'll start saying to themselves, we'll encourage it obviously with our terminology, but it's like, get into a tandem. They'll get right to a tandem, and we'll try to fix it. And that it helps them to see that. But yeah, that's the best thing we do, I think, to solve problems in practice is to create those situations and go from there.
And a part of characteristic of a lot of presses is that when the opponent breaks your press, you're not out of the press. Like there's this recovery aspect or, this chase down aspect, which still can put pressure on the defense. Can you talk about when you use that, if you use that all the time, or if you mix it in different times, and what the philosophy is on recovery?
Yeah, that's a question I get all the time, and it's like for our players too: is when's the press over? The press is never over. The press is, I don't need to tell you when the press is over. You'll know when the press is over because they're either pulled it back out and it's 5-on-5, or they've turned it over or they scored. So it's like it's pretty obvious. So yeah, we want to you're not going to turn a team over all the time. You're going to turn a team over what? A good team maybe, 20% of the time, 23%, 24% of the time. So the rest of the time, you got to be able to recover out of that. We call it we X out of traps. We have a certain style we do it, which is on the tapes, but we're coming from behind. And I think a lot of that is psychological. When they know we're coming from behind, when they know at the start of the game, hey, if we break this thing, we have guys chasing down. So like you might have one free dribble. By the time you get to your second or third dribble, there should be someone looking over, you're looking over your shoulder, like who's coming. And like, there's a pressure mentally that we're going to just keep attacking until something happens, and the guys will say, well, how long should I back tip? I said, well, if he takes the ball and goes out that door over there and ends up in the parking lot, you just keep chasing him. And then I've got guys looking at me like I got three heads, but it's like, just chase him. So on a back tip, we're going to back tip that guy until he passes it. So if you're chasing a guy, like you're not going to ever stop. If he goes sideways, you just keep on back tipping him the whole. That back tip could lead to a trap. A guy, you're coming from behind and he wants to go out and set up the offense. If he goes out, we got two guys there, we'll go trap that. And I think a lot of times it's the traps even after the press has been, quote, broken. That they throw a ball to the corner, and now we're in position to go trap the ball in the corner. We'll go do that. That's fine. It's your, once again, it's their press, it's their call, so they can go be aggressive and make those plays. And I think the press helps us in our half court defense. I think it helps us in our overall. I think it makes us a little more, even in defensive transition, we'll get back tips in defensive transition because our guys are used to chasing things down from behind. And, when you're chasing from behind, like you're going hard. You can't chase a guy from behind. And I always tell the guys, like, and may not be true, but you better be able to run faster than they can dribble. If you can't run faster than they can dribble, then I need to go out and find some guys that can do that kind of stuff. And so now listen, there's some guys who can dribble faster than a lot of guys can run. I know I couldn't chase most guys down, but it helps our half court. We're just more aggressive, and we'll trap in the half court, even in a half court situation. If we see something like they're instinctive, they want to go trap, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Go trap. We're used to the rotations. Go be aggressive, and we'll figure out a way to fix it.
It's great stuff. And can you share some ideas and some insights on actually trapping? So a live dribble versus a dead dribble and the distinction between those two things specifically.
Yeah. So it's the live dribble, we're trying to trap, when the ball handler loses vision, when he spins, when he goes behind his head, there's a certain time, I don't care how good a guard you are, your eyes drop, like your head goes down, your eyes drop. When you go behind your back and you go through your legs, when you spin, we got to kind of sniff that out and smell those traps. And so that's a situation where we're looking for the guy to lose vision. We're looking for a guy to put his head down. We're looking for him to be in a tough spot, around half court. If you cross over the corner over there, that's a great spot to go. So we're kind of anticipating that, and when we go, it's like, there's one guy, the guy that's on the ball, he's got to be solid. The guy who's trapping, it kind of depends on who you are. If you're a guy who can really, guard a guard, because we don't want to get split for the most part. So when you go at the guy, it's kind of like you're, I grew up in Iowa, so I'm not a farmer, but I was around enough farmers. It's like you're herding cattle a little bit. You can't or roping a horse. You're trying to get a horse to cut him off. You can't go straight at the guy. You got to kind of level him off a little bit. You got to come at him and then try to like. And once we go trap, we're going to stay in the trap till he passes it out. We don't want to leave. So it's like we're staying no matter what. So we're going at him. Trying to get him corralled, trying to get those two guys on the ball. We X out where if me and you are trapping Chris and he beats you, I'm going to go behind you. If he beats me, you'd go behind me. We'll stay on the ball. So and that's on the tapes as well. We spend time on that. So we're trying to stay on that trap as long as we can and really try to shrink it as time goes on. You know, they only have so much time. I think the X-outs, the dribble X-outs are really good. If you can get good at that, it causes a lot, because they think if they're beating me up the sideline, but all of a sudden you come, instead of chasing from behind, you come and cut me off underneath and corral that guy. That's really difficult to play against. The dead ball stuff, that's more probably usually going to be on the first pass. And that's, love to have the guy catch the ball in a tough spot. If he catches the ball in the corner, if he catches the ball, his back to the basket, if we're on a run, if a guy's a non-handler throws it in, let's go get that guy and let's go get him hard. We're trying to get a deflection. We're trying to get a tip. We don't want to foul. The guys in the trap, they're not trying to steal the ball. They're just trying to make it a lob pass, make it a bounce pass, make it a tip pass, but being aggressive. Obviously we want to make them uncomfortable and want to make them, and we do foul. I hope the whole world's not watching I hope referees aren't watching I'm sure some referees do watch. Maybe the whole world watches listen to your podcast, but referees, we do foul. We don't punish them for not fouling all the time. Let's not be crazy, but we're going to try to, with our body, not with your arms, but try to get underneath them a little bit, try to be physical with our chest, try to walk them out of their spots a little bit. If they're not in an athletic stance, we'll try to be really aggressive with them. But you got to be smart. You go after a guy who's a really good guard who can split a double team. That could cause you a lot of problems too. So we spend time on that, but those guys got to be aggressive, smart, and under control.
Well, you spoke about the psychology of official. Officials don't want to blow the whistle. That's not the intent, right? So it's by fouling more, you're actually getting away with more fouls. And that is a big part of a pressing system, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you got to be cognizant of the bonus. And there's times you can foul and it's not going to hurt you too much. Now, if we're in the double bonus with 10 minutes to go in the first half, that's not a good thing. So we got to be aware of what's going on. And our guys know that and that's one thing we do. We keep track of the fouls, and we're very much on top of that. So we do foul. There's a time and place to not foul. It's funny because when we first started pressing, we'd foul a lot because we're being really aggressive. And I'd go to halftime and say, "Hey, fellas, stop fouling, stop fouling, stop fouling." Then we come out, we wouldn't foul for the first 10 minutes. Our press sucked. We were awful for the first. And I'm like, well, we need to foul more now. So there's a fine line. We definitely want to be aggressive, and we definitely are going to foul at times without making we don't want to give them free throws, So, and what I try to do with the referees is I try to constantly yell at my guys, "Hey, don't foul, show your hands. We're constantly saying that kind of stuff, trying to, hey, let them know we're trying to do the right thing here. We're trying not to foul. And you're always nice to them, and you're always trying to tell them what a great job they're doing, all that kind of stuff. And just keep on fouling, and just keep doing it."
Always nice to them. Hey, look, I don't want to help your opponents, but I am still surprised. And easier said than done, so there's no judgment here. But it's just how many teams still design their press entries to enter to the ball side instead of attacking the weak side on entry. And I would imagine that's one of the things that would influence your defense the most, is inbounding to the weak side, to more space on the weak side of the floor.
Absolutely, because then you're forced a long trap, and then so we don't want long traps. And so if you're going to throw a ball to the ball side of the floor and we can get there, if you can get there in 3 steps, we want to go. That's just a general rule. So if I'll say the guy will say, "Well, was that too far? Were you there in 3 steps?" "Yeah, I was there." "Well, that's fine." So if you go to the weak side of the floor, we're not going to get there in 3 steps. And I think teams there's still a little bit of they have a press break. Most teams have one press, or they have 2 press breaks. Well, we're going to be used to 2 press breaks. I mean, you got to be a little more, probably as time goes on, a little more. That's part of the beauty of the press, is we're going to force you to have different ways of doing things. You're going to have to think of something else that's going to cause us problems. And if you just go with the convention, I was around my dad when he's coaching all those years, and everybody went 1-4. Well, you want to go 1-4 against our press. That's not a great, bring the whole team back to the bat. That's not a great way, because all you're doing is bringing our whole team, and we're going to play in a quarter of the court, and we're short traps, short rotations. So the best way to
talk about that, because again, I see that all the time too. And it's you don't want more people in a smaller space when you're trying to attack pressure, do you?
No, the best way to beat pressure is to have one guy who can really handle the ball and give as much space as possible, give as much room as he can, and just space us out and make us have to cover more ground. You know, the less ground we have to cover, the better off we're going to be. And obviously we're going to adjust to that. And that's why if teams do that, we'll try to get more stuff around half court where you can shorten the court a little bit. But no, the more guys teams bring back, the more they try to get on top of things. The more guys that if they try to screen it, or we're going to switch the screens, we're going to trap the screens. So that part's not going to problem. It's just we have more problems when the teams have more spacing, better. But it's like that's true of any kind of defense you play, half court defense. Or spacing is always the issue. If we got to cover more space, we're gonna have problems. So it's interesting. But as time goes on, you see different ideas and different thoughts. And Ben McCollum, who's obviously a guest in your pod, who's a good friend of mine, and they did some interesting things against our press. It causes problems. I mean, he put some time and thought into it. I'm like, it made us better by going against him because it was something. Hey, this is new. We haven't covered this yet. And then, of course, when he was, I would say he was successful against it, but I wouldn't say he was really successful against it. But they did a good job against it. So the more that people saw it on video, hey, let's try what they did. So we had to kind of change what we did a little bit and be ready, because he flashed the guard's middle, and his point guard wouldn't handle the initial pass. He'd flash him to the middle, and that causes problems because now, if we went to trap, they're throwing the ball to their best ball handler. And the beauty of our press is a lot of times, right, the best ball handler's got the ball. We trap him, take away the next best ball handler. By the time it gets to the third guy, he's not quite as good making decisions or making plays going full speed. We're chasing him from behind. We're into tandem. And that's what you kind of want, is a guy who's not used to making those plays, handle the ball. And then he throws the ball to the fourth guy who doesn't really want to shoot because that's not his role. So he's afraid to make a play. Then he travels. And we get a lot of our turnovers because it's the wrong guy handle the ball at the wrong time in the wrong spots. That's just, I know it's not the traps. Everybody thinks, well, it's the traps or it's the steals. It's more of them being sped up and playing outside their comfort level of what they're used to doing. So we're trying to prepare ourselves for all the situations, but it's interesting.
Well, I love getting your insights on that side of things since you've done this for so long. I mean, it's really good. And the Ben McCollum thing reminds me of the Bobby Cremins story he told at a Nike clinic once when he did a whole clinic on press break. And he started the clinic and he said, listen, here's what I do. I get the ball to Kenny Anderson. Coach, what if you don't have Kenny Anderson? Well, I give it to Steph Marbury. What if I don't have any of them? I get fired. It's like a little obvious, and we don't all have that luxury, but to a certain extent, it's like, if you do have an incredible player, you can get him the ball. But if not, to your point about what Ben said, it's like, don't inbound to your best ball handler because they're going to take the ball out of their hand. And that's just a brilliant way of looking at it.
Yep. No, it's true.
I know. Reminds me of those great Nike clinics, right? With all the stories. We could talk forever.
I was a kid going to those things my dad used to me all the time. I used to love going and watching that stuff. It's crazy.
It was unbelievable. I know. And you already connected this for a little bit, but I want you to tie it in for everyone to be able to understand. So you run motion on offense. So talk to me about how those two things go together, the pressing system and motion, because there seems to be great synergy.
Yeah. So, and you know me a little bit, Chris, and like if you knew me better, like my wife knows me better, like my mind does not work. I can't keep track of plays. Like we might be the simplest out of bounds team to play team. That I get most of my stuff, like my ideas for offense or sets or out of bounds off of videos and things like that. And I'll actually show the video to my guys and say, what do you think? Because I can't really diagram it or show it. So my mind is not. I'm like I'm not a paint by numbers guy. I'm just a free thinker. So motion to me, and I grew up running motion. My dad was when you played in motion, it's hard to go play something else. I didn't run a set play in basketball until I went to prep school in college. I never run a set play my whole life. We didn't have one set play in high school. It was all motion. So it was all, we're making decisions. When we played in high school, you played in Iowa, you played 100 games in summer. So that's all we did was play games, and it was all motion. So by the time you play 100 games in the summer and play 25 during the season, you do that for your whole life. Like, you're pretty good at motion offense. And so we kind of knew how to screen, how to read, how to play. And it's, you're making decisions. It's decision making, like, what you believe in, which I believe in, is that's how basketball should be played. It's like the players, like, how do I tell you what to do? You got to read what to do. Your defender tells you what to do. Your defenders, it's all about what the defense does. And so that thinking, I think, translates to the press too. It's like, I'm not saying, hey, do we trap here? Well, no. Do you want to trap there? That's your decision. You got to make the decision on when to trap, where to go, how to rotate. We're going to give you these, just like an emotion. We're going to give you flare screens, ball screens, back screens, staggers. inside cuts, basket cuts. We're going to give you these tools. Then you figure out how to get a good shot, right? And the press, here's all the tools to how we're going to press. Now you got to figure out with our guidance what to do. And obviously that's not to say there's not a lot of coaching and teaching involved in that, but we're not holding your hand. We're not telling you what to do. I think it'd be hard to press and then run a structured set offense. We haven't done it, so I wouldn't know how to do it. But I think it'd be very hard to come down now and say, hey, I'm going to take control and I'm going to tell you how to play offense. I think it kind of flows into, all right, we're going to press this way, and then on offense, we're going to make decisions and let you play. And I'm a big believer because the pressing is hard. Like there's no doubt, pressing is hard. It's grueling. It's tough, especially guys in the front of the press. I mean, so I want to give them some freedom offensively to play. I want to let them, make decisions. Let them have some fun on offense. When I say have fun, I'm not sure. Fun depends on who you are, kind of sometimes. But I want them to be able to play with some freedom, not me down their throats constantly calling a set, calling a play. I want them to have a good feel for how to play basketball. I think when guys come to play in our program, it's like they know that after they've been here for a while, it's like, hey, we're not overbearing. My thing is never look to me on the bench. We don't take guys out for mistakes. Effort will take them out for, but you screw up on a rotation. All right, we're gonna yell at you and say, hey, you should have done it, but we're gonna let you play through that. Even on offense, you screw up, you take a shot we don't love. We're gonna let you shoot that shot as long as you're playing hard, doing the right thing. So I think there's a great synergy between the motion and the press. But I'm biased, of course, but that's what I think.
Well, you should be biased because it's your stuff that you're doing, and you need your players to do it. But I think my biggest takeaway from that is that there was no workload management in Iowa back in the day when you were playing high school basketball.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, to your point though, like teaching motion has become difficult because of the restrictions in practice time, right?
100%. That's why I just said it. We were good at it because we go play 2 games in the morning and get in the station wagon and drive across Iowa and the cornfields and play 2 games at night. But you're playing 4 games a day. You better be we had chances to, and my dad was a stickler about motion. Like I try to be too, is you got a chance to really get into it and get good at it. And guys knew kind of what to do. And so, yeah, it makes it harder. I will say this from, I'm a Division II now, as a Division I. I was a head coach of Division III. We didn't have, in Division III, there's no off-season workouts. I think it'd be hard to it's hard to do all that stuff when you don't have time to work with your guys constantly on motion and on our press and things like that. So the more time you have, obviously, the better off it is. And I think the lack of the practice time, and we can go on, that could be a whole other podcast, but it drives you crazy that the lack of access some guys have to their players to teach them and help them is too bad. It's because. Yeah.
Not to jump on that Division III bandwagon, but I don't get that. I don't understand that. If kids choose your school because they want to play basketball as an extracurricular, then why are we limiting their opportunity? But you and I could go off on that forever, couldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I played Division III basketball. I was a good student, but I was also a basketball junkie. I would have loved to had time to do more stuff like that. So no, but I think for me, I always think it's hard. It'd be harder for me to teach a guy 30 sets and 30 plays than it would to just teach them motion and say, hey, you can go ball screen, you can go back screen, you can go flare screen. I think and then if you make a mistake, you can still play through it. Just like the press, playing half court defense, you got to be so precise. Half court defense, if all you play is half court defense, you can't screw up. You got to do all the things, which I think are huge, very important. But I think in the press, we can make a mistake and make up for a mistake by our effort, by our 5 guys playing together, by chasing stuff down from behind, by making them play in a different situation, as opposed to if you just play half court basketball, you all of a sudden you don't tag a stagger, you don't handle a cross screen the right way, it's going to be a basket, and that's what go back to the first thing we talked about, turnover margin. Okay, fine, they get a layup on us. Well, we get 2 turnovers to offset that layup, and that's a 4-2 advantage for us. So we still win,
I love it. Such a great system, and obviously incredible success you've had through your years of coaching. And, maybe give us one last perspective. Why should somebody go to TobinAndersonBasketball.com and check out your all access practice pressing systems? What is a coach going to see when they watch your practices?
Well, I think you're going to see, A through Z, everything we do. We don't hold anything back at all. Like the whole total package. Like I'm a big believer in I don't care if what we do and how we play, because we're going to do it every day, and then we're going to teach it every day. And so guys, you can't replicate what we do as far as preparing for us, right? So you're going to see everything we do. There's nothing hidden at all. I didn't hide anything back. I talked to other guys who are on podcasts, like, why do you share so much? Why do you show us? I'm like, because I'm like, I like what we do. Like I had a great buddy of mine who was Tyler Sims, who's at Clark University, and he came in and they took our press and they went from, they were like, 5-20 2 years ago. I think they're 20-5 this year, doing all this stuff. And like, I love to watch his games because they're doing what we're doing. Like they're doing all our stuff. And he just took what we did, and that's what they do. And they do it very well now. So I think you're going to see the total package, everything we do, not hold anything back. You'll see a fun way of play, a fun way to coach. There's not a day I go into practice I'm not excited about practice. I think not that I wouldn't be anyway. I think I love basketball just like you do, like we all do. But it's like Preston makes it a little more fun, and like I think kind of to your approach, Chris, like we used to do a lot more drills and a lot more stuff that I think might have been too much fluff and too much. That's how it was back then. My dad coached. He did 50 drills. We might get loose and do some breakdown stuff and do some individual. By the 15th minute of practice, we're pressing, like we're going up and down 5-on-5 with our press right away, and we're teaching and we're coaching, and the guys are going hard, and there's competition. So I think you'll see that. You'll see what we do, and I think we covered a lot of things in those tapes that people are going to see and going to like, and everybody's going to put their own tweak on things and put their own spin on stuff. But it's a good foundation. Like at the end of the day, it's not my house. It's there's a foundation for me. It's not I didn't invent this. It came from somebody else. But I think how we do it is unique. I don't think a lot of teams play that way. I think a lot of teams want to play that way. I think a lot of teams talk about playing that way. I think the more teams that did it, I think they would enjoy it, and it would be very successful. I think, one of the things that the beauties of Preston is you play more guys. You play more guys, you get more guys involved, whether you're at the high school level, college level. We had a kid just get injured a couple of days ago, but we're prepared for that because we've been playing a lot of guys already. So it's not like all of a sudden the guy who's not been playing has to play a role. He's already been playing a role. Now his role may be a little bit bigger, but he's ready to go in right now and play without any hesitation at all. And I think in high school, every high school team has a kid who's a sophomore in high school who's like, hey, he's close to being good enough, but let's wait till next year. But if you're pressing, you're playing 9 or 10 guys, he's playing in the rotation when he's a sophomore. Now all of a sudden he's a junior. He's a very valuable player for us who's had experience, who's been on the floor a lot. So I think whatever level you're at, I think it can really help you to win a bunch of games and be successful and fun to coach, and then your guys get better. I think our guys get better by playing because they've got to make decisions in practice against it every day, going full speed. Under duress, and it works out well for us.
Absolutely. And, I can echo the one thing is that you're going to see coaching interventions that lead to success. And that's the thing. It's not a magic drill, and there's no magic drill. It's all the coaching interventions that you shared with us that now really give me an insight in terms of not what you do, but how you do it, which is equally important, and just a great system and a great blueprint for coaches. So, Coach, I can't thank you enough, first of all, to reconnect with you over the years, but also for sharing the game with us so graciously. Thank you for joining us.
It's great, Chris. I mean, through social media, I feel like we talk every day because I'm either on your podcast or watch your videos or whatever. But it's awesome. You do a great job, and it's an honor to be here. And I appreciate doing the tapes. And yeah, it's great. It's great stuff. We all love basketball, so it making me a better. It's been maybe a better coach, and I think just fun to be around. So I appreciate it.